I am super, super excited to, well, almost, I would say 99.999% of the people on here already know Matt. But for those of you who don't, you might know him from his super duper best-selling book, Growth Levers, or you most likely know him from his very, very helpful newsletter that he spends a great deal of time noodling over and sending each week. But my little random factoid is we can put it in the chat. He actually was a speechwriter for a former sitting US president. And I wonder who that was. Anyway, without further ado, let's get going. Matt Lerner.
So you're not going to tell them who I
No,
wrote
no,
speeches
no, no.
for?
This is they'll have to like uh wait to the end, and then I will and it won't be on the recording.
Okay. Nice hook. All right. Welcome, everybody. I'm going to kick off. As I'm going, if you have questions, put them in the chat. Nopadon and Afa will read through them and interrupt me and ask me those questions as they come up. All right. But I am not going to look at the chat. So this whole thing started when I was scrolling through X and I saw Noah Kagan, founder of AppSumo, posted, these are the most popular AI marketing tool categories. And I thought, well, that's stupid. Why are the most popular ways to use AI to automate the exact tactics that AI is killing? SEO, like AI answers are pushing organic search results down below, Google Shopping and all the other stuff, YouTube, all the other things Google wants you to see. More than that, most informational searches are starting to move over and you're just asking AI directly rather than doing a search, clicking through to a page. My LinkedIn inbox is so full of AI generated spam, I don't even look at it anymore. Same with my email spam folder. Videos, we're making videos and everyone just scrolls past AI slop. It's reflexive. So I was like, this makes no sense. But there is hope. There is hope. But the first point I want to make here is that AI is not a magic cure-all. AI is only as good as the thinking of the people who use it. If you have bad ideas, AI will tell you you're a genius, and then automated AI will execute them. So you can execute 10 times more bad ideas than you could before AI. But if you automate crap, it's still crap. So what I want to talk about today is how to go from using AI to automate things that don't work to how we can use it to find things that do and then do them. Because AI gives us an incredible tool set that we never had before. So how do I know about finding things that do work? A little background, you've met Nopadon. Nopadon and I both started our careers in Silicon Valley, both moved to London. I was on the early growth team at PayPal. I met Nopadon when I became a VC and I hired him. And we were VCs working with companies in London and in Germany, actually. And we saw the same mistake over and over again, which is companies are not running like a hacky, do things that don't scale Silicon Valley growth playbook. They were like hiring people from big companies and trying to do big company marketing, but without money or headcount or big company brand awareness or big company product market fit, and it wasn't working. So we founded an accelerator called System. We've been going for 5 years now. We've worked with 300 teams. I'm thrilled to say, proud to say, we have a 96% founder likely to recommend. And most of all, we have a lot of results. These days, most of our new business comes from referrals from alumni, referrals from VCs. We've worked with teams from Y Combinator, top European VCs, worked directly with Point Nine in Germany, Point Nine Capital, Atomico, and Stride here in London. Anyways, enough about us. The question is, where do these numbers come from? What did these companies do? What is effective growth work? And then how can we use AI to leverage it, add leverage? So first of all, let's talk about the causes of failure, the failure patterns that we see. So typically when companies hit a plateau, it is because they don't know where to focus. So they're focusing on the wrong work, or more likely trying to do a little bit of everything and hoping something works. But if you're only doing a little of it, it's probably not going to work. Then when they do things oftentimes it just doesn't perform well. And I'm not being sort of vague here. I mean, literally, retention rates are bad. Conversion rates on a landing page are bad. Ads are expensive and bring us low quality traffic. Like, just literally, they don't work. And then things just take too long. Um, the good news is AI can help with all of these things. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So, how to prioritize the most impactful work and focus on it, how to do a better job at whatever area we're focused on, activation, retention, whatever, and how to move faster and increase the pace of learning. So remember, as I'm going, if you have any questions, just put them in the chat. So let's start with the first one, prioritize the most impactful work. If you have read my book, I apologize. This will be repetition, but I'll get through it in like 20 seconds. So if I ever had one original thought in my life, it was this, that I noticed that if you take any successful startup and look backwards, they'll get 90% of their growth from 10% of the work that they did. This was absolutely true in the early days at PayPal. Like, all of their growth came from like 5 tactics I could name for you. That doesn't mean they only did 5 things. They built dozens of products and features that nobody ever used. They spent hundreds of millions of dollars on marketing that didn't move any needles, but it didn't matter because they had gazillions of dollars and tens of thousands of employees. I'm assuming you don't have that luxury. I'm assuming you're in a startup, and so you need to find your 10% fast because you can't brute force it. So first of all, let me ask you a question and answer in the chat. If you had to kill 90% of the stuff you're doing in your business right now, would you know which 10% to keep? People are saying no. Maybe 50%. Too early stage. Okay. Assuming you did know, would everyone on your team agree? Like, even if you know the right answer, if the whole team's having a debate about it, not going to help. Okay, so great news. AI can help us find the most impactful work. So this is based in, and by the way, everything I'm going to show you today, you can do with basic large language models off the shelf. Don't need any fancy OpenClaw, N8N, anything like that. So this is based in the theory of constraints, an idea from a guy named Eliyahu Goldratt, who basically said, in any flow-based system, and he was thinking about like manufacturing and refineries and things, somewhere in there, there's a bottleneck. There's a rate limiting step. And if you can apply resources to that bottleneck and open it up, the whole system runs faster. And if you apply resources anywhere else, it's wasteful and inefficient. It won't make a difference. So you can mention theory of constraints if you want, but basically open up a model. And for this one, I recommend ChatGPT. Feed in your business metrics, just high level, explain your flows and where you get prospects and blah, blah, blah. And just ask, where's the rate limiting step? Where can we focus in this business for maximum impact? And you may not know like what's a good conversion rate for a B2B lead magnet landing page or a consumer mobile app paywall. That's fine. Gemini is a great place to get those benchmarks to find out, if you're doing a good job or not. So the first thing is just find the bottleneck, the constraint in your business, and stop doing everything else. Focus there. You're going to focus there, and you're going to hopefully have way too many ideas of what to do. And you need to prioritize what to do first. So the next thing you're going to do is you're going to explain your idea to the model and just ask it, help me plug in numbers and assumptions. If this works, how big can it be? Now, notice I'm not prioritizing by effort and chance of success. Just forget those for now. We'll come back to those. Purely, how big can this be? Because if you come up with an idea and even if it works amazingly well, it can't be big, at this stage, you don't want to do it. You may have an idea to do a referral program because your best new business comes from referrals. But a good referral program only converts at about 2 or 3%. So if you have 100 customers, best case scenario, you get 2 or 3 customers. Maybe worth emailing your customers and asking for referrals. It's not worth doing a referral program. So AI can then help you size each of these, choose the one that if it works, can have the greatest impact. That's the easy part. The hard part is getting everyone to stop doing everything else because everyone comes in with their strategies and their agendas and the things that worked in their last job and the things they put in their quarterly goals and their best practices they got from Lenny's newsletter. And we all want to do all these things. And it's hard to get everyone to stop doing those so that we can align our attention and focus our resources on the highest impact work. Nope, Don, am I missing any questions?
No questions so far.
All right, great. Let's go on to number 2.
Actually, can someone test it? Can someone put a question? And I think it's a little bit suspicious that I don't see any questions.
Well, you can also just type them in the chat if you don't want to use the special webinar Q&A feature.
Thank you, Polly. All right. Thanks, team.
Okay, now the next thing, and this, for me, this is just a massive game changer for AI. This just blows my mind, is to do the work effectively. And that could mean build features people actually use, run ads people click, send cold emails that people respond to, whatever it is you're working on, make it more effective. So the way you do that is, well, before I get to that, let's do a quiz here, okay? Here's 2 headlines. Type in the chat, which of these headlines do you think converted better? Okay. I can't count this fast. We should have made it a poll, but we forgot to do the poll. That's all right. Okay, so anyone who's seen my talk before has written B, and everyone else is writing A. So most people, most of the time, choose A because it looks like better marketing. But in fact, B won this A/B test. And not only that, it performed 10 times better. A converted to sign up at 3%. B converted at 30%. Why is that? Well, if you look at A, read these words. Have you ever woken up in the morning and thought, I really wish I could accelerate my learning and develop my thinking through online discussion? Probably not, because that's gibberish. It doesn't mean anything. But lots of people every day wake up and think, I want to learn faster, remember more, and get things done. So great marketing copy isn't written by marketing writers. It's written by our customers. And in fact, this headline B was written by an engineer who parsed 50 hours of customer interview transcripts and just pulled out the verbs and mashed them all together in a headline. These are the things his customer wants to do. But here's the problem, right? If you say, Claude, give me good headlines for my product, and it gives you headline A and headline B, most people are going to say, B is a terrible headline, Claude. You shouldn't give me long, wordy headlines that no one's going to read, that are full of features and functionality. Headlines should be short and inspiring. And Claude is going to say, oh my God, you're right. That changes everything. And Claude's going to give you a bunch of shitty, pithy, confusing headlines because, again, the AI isn't going to challenge our thinking, right? It's a sycophant. It's going to just reinforce us. So this is what we have to overcome. And I'm talking about a landing page and a headline, but if you think about it, your entire customer journey from the first time they see one of your influencer videos or your booth at a trade show or hear about it from a friend, all the way through, contract, SDR, phone call, activation, retention. Each of these is a series of communication events. And at each of these stages, your customer comes in with something in their mind, maybe a problem they're hoping you can solve, maybe a worry based on the last product they tried, maybe a question about what their boss is going to think, whatever. They have some question or worry or goal or hope in their head. And the better you understand it, the better you're going to be able to perform at each of those stages. Worked with a company, paid ads, landing page, 2% conversion. Why would you click on an ad for a product, go to a page, and not buy the product? That's kind of weird. But 98% of people who click on the ad for the product end up not buying it. That's weird. You can guess, you can try things, but this works a lot easier if you can figure out why they're not buying the product in the first place. So in the old days, this took months, millions of dollars market research. I spent hundreds of thousands of dollars, probably millions over the years, on market research at PayPal. It took forever. It was incredibly effective. It really made a huge difference in our business. Most people don't have months. Most people don't have millions of dollars. So what we've done at System, and we'll explain how to do this, is we've created, we call it a synthetic user or VOC, voice of customer document. And this is a 9-page markdown file that any of us can upload to any large language model, and it will embody the voice of our customer. It will have our customers' opinions and our customers' reactions, and it can write using the words of our customers. And so, it's like a dream. So how do you create something like that? Basically, there's a few ways to do this. If you already have a product there's like a lot of text about it in the public domain, or even your product category, I'll just demo this now. You can actually just do this right away using an existing large language model. If not, then we'll have to go find some customer text. But I'll do a quick demo here and show you how I would do this. So I recommend for this kind of work, Gemini or Claude in thinking mode. Could be Sonnet or Opus, doesn't matter. Okay, so I've got the whole prompt sheet here that we'll share with you, but just in the interest of time, I'm not going to go through all of them. But I'm going to pick a product that I don't, for the life of me, understand why somebody would buy this product. And we're just going to do this. So the first thing we want to do is figure out what are our customers' goals. So I'm going to go with, because I don't understand why somebody would spend $400 for a hairdryer, but apparently they do. Why would they buy a Dyson hairdryer? Using jobs to be done, generate responses. By the way, if you're not familiar with jobs to be done, you don't hugely need to be, but basically it's a theory that we don't buy products or services. We pull them in our lives at different times to achieve goals. And the key here is to figure out what is the goal someone's buying this product for. So, and I'm not going to sign up for it. So why am I? So the first thing I'm going to do is ask it to identify possible outcomes. Let's only focus on the outcome first. Do not proceed until I choose an outcome. All right, the model sometimes gets a little overeager. So I've just asked Gemini, which has like the newest, freshest, most complete corpus of customer discourse. Oh, wow. Okay. Why might someone spend $400 on a hairdryer? Okay, one is reclaim precious morning minutes and reducing physical exhaustion. I'm genuinely resentful of the 30-minute arm workout I have to do every morning. By the time my hair is dry, I'm already sweating and running late. I just want to get out the door looking polished without manual labor. So cut drying time in half so I can sleep later and do whatever. Number two, hair health guardian. My hair looks like straw because of my cheap old dryer. I can't let it air dry or I'll look like a poodle. I'm scared of permanently ruining my hair. Okay, wow. Suddenly I'm starting to understand why someone would spend $400 on a hairdryer. Okay, the DIY at-home stylist. I only feel truly confident on the days I get a professional blowout, but I can't afford $50 twice a week. Okay, for those of you who do dry your hair every morning, please type in the chat 1, 2, or 3. Which of these is the main reason you would spend a lot of money or did spend a lot of money for a hairdryer?
Me
Get
from
out the door
Collective actually
faster.
has one of these.
What's that?
Amy from Collective actually has one of these.
Okay. So we're getting, wow, I would have
Just said 2.
everyone's saying 2 and 3. And that's funny. It's not save time, which is like everybody's product ever. All right. 2. I'm going to go with 2 then. Okay, cool. Thank you. So we'll just pick that outcome, grab the next one here. And we're just going to explore it in more detail. So paste this in. Let's focus only on number 2. How would somebody describe that goal? How would they complete a sentence like blah, blah, blah? Okay. So now we're just going to get a little more clarity on how do customers talk about that outcome? What are the struggles? And we remember we need customer language. We win when we sound like our customers. Okay. I'm terrified to look at the drain after I wash my hair lately. It's like straw. I love how I look when it's styled, but I feel like I'm literally frying the life out of it every morning. I just don't look decent for work. My stylist gave me the look last time, the one where she tells me I have to stop using so much heat, but I can't go out with wet hair. I need something that doesn't feel like a blowtorch or I'm going to end up with a pixie cut I didn't ask for. Okay. I'm learning a lot here. Some of you might be like, yes, Matt, this is obvious. But if we don't know who our customers are, like those of you who have or who blow dry your hair every morning, does this feel realistic? Does this actually sound like legit customer language? Okay. Getting some, yeah, pretty close. Amazing, isn't it? So suppose we got to make a landing page to sell these things. Instead of saying the most advanced hair dryer on earth, we could say, stop feeling guilty about your morning blowout. Get the shine back without the burnt ends. Finally, a way to dry your hair without killing it. Look polished today, keep your hair for tomorrow. From fried and frizzy to salon healthy at home. Like, that's actually halfway decent headlines, right? Okay, the next thing we got to do is figure out where are we going to find these people? So I'm going to just ask it to, some people would buy a fancy hair dryer with the goal of looking great without toasting their hair. What are some situations or triggers that might prompt them to start looking for ways to achieve that outcome? As a marketer, I'm trying to figure out where to intercept them. Okay, so here we go. The stylist could actually sell them the hairdryer right away because the person's thinking right there in the chair, am I going to be able to do this at home? When they look in the drain. So interception point, this could be an ad or an influencer video about hair breakage, hair thinning, search terms like best brushes for damaged hair, focus on the intelligent heat control feature. Okay, I'm not sure about that. Dread of the vacation photo, burnt smell epiphany, post bleach regret. One other idea I got when I did this as a practice run was at the gym. When you're drying your hair in the morning in a rush to get to work or at Soul Cycle, they could have fancy hair dryers there and they could sell those. Okay, I'm going to skip some of these, but you'll get the full prompt. The next thing is like, what are we actually competing against here? So I'm going to ask about alternative solutions because they're not just comparing you with maybe other hair dryers. Typically, they're just comparing you with any other means to achieve the goal, including often doing nothing. Okay, so it turns out there's these high-end serums and heat protectants that people might buy that cost $40 a bottle. Oh, I love the $30 Conair blowtorch. Air dry and pray, so basically doing nothing. There's something called cold setting, using the low heat button and then like trying to dry a wet towel with a breath mint. Okay, takes forever. Salon subscription, getting regular treatments. Okay, so here's the alternatives. At some point, your prospect realizes I'm spending more time and money and mental energy trying to fix the damage than it would cost to prevent it. Yes, as it happens, I would like to move on to the anxieties. This is the last thing. So great, you get them, they click on your ad or your influencer video, they come to your site. They may be ready to buy your expensive hair dryer. They may not. Why not? Number one, is it a gilded toaster? Is it just another hair dryer that's gonna burn me, but it's expensive? Can you really have innovation in a hair dryer? Hidden heat. It still feels hot. What if it is drying my hair somehow? This feels like voodoo. How's this actually going to work? Fragile Ferrari. Okay, this thing looks great. Is it actually going to break? Can I carry it in my gym bag in the morning? Buyer's remorse. Learning curve. Am I not going to know how to use this fancy thing? Anyway, so these are examples of then questions people will probably have before they buy your product. So we'll give you the prompts afterwards, and I recommend you start and practice by using a product that is not your product. And ideally pick a product where you don't know anything about it because the process is just clearer that way. Were there any questions in the chat?
Yeah, one of them I think it's worth talking about is if they have customer interviews.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. But what I was explaining in the answer section is not to lump all of them together into one VOC document. What you'll find is that the interviews that you have may have one or two or three different use cases, or jobs, as we like to call them, or contexts. Make sure you categorize them in that context first, because as Matt just showed you, a specific use case or context might have its own anxiety, its own blockers, and you don't want to mash them all together.
Yeah, that's exactly right. We do a separate document for each outcome. So for example, the salon at home, if you want to buy this to look like a pro stylist, like your hair's done by a pro stylist, versus if you want to buy this to keep from damaging your hair, you're going to have you're going to click different ads. You're going to have different questions when you have the landing pages. We're going to have a totally different sales pitch, may intercept you in a different place. So everything changes not based on who the customer is, upper middle class career woman who needs to look impressive all day. It's going to change based on what it is you're trying to achieve. So if your product already has a bunch of text in the public domain, great. That's a wonderful place to start. To be honest, this is not a great replacement for actually talking to your customers, but it will get you from 0 out of 10 to 7 out of 10, and that's a really big improvement. The gold standard, also if you can find private chat somewhere, discussion groups or something, or even just sales call transcripts, you can use those to prime the model. And then we'll also give you a prompt that can just go through a corpus of text and extract the right cues using customer language. But the gold standard is if you can do real customer interviews and pull out of those transcripts. That's the easy part, which is amazing because this I just did in whatever 5 minutes, something that used to take months of trained market research. The hard part is getting people to stop thinking they already know the answer. As long as people in the company are like, this is good marketing. I like this headline. I like this ad better. Let's test these ads. As long as we're thinking that way, we're doomed for failure. We need to start viewing our content, our flows, our experiences through the eyes of our prospects. And now AI should have an opinion. And the opinion shouldn't be, oh my God, you're right. AI should have the opinion of our customer, and that will help us do better marketing. The other thing that is hard is sunk cost fallacy. It is abandoning previous work and things we've committed to, like an expensive rebrand or our visionary positioning that we sold to investors. All right, let's get to point 3. So we've talked about prioritizing the high impact work, being able to see through the eyes of our customer. The last one is to be able to do stuff faster. Not only execute faster, but compound the learning, move us from being on a random walk to actually experimenting and testing, so each failure makes us smarter and faster. So why do things take so long in your company now, assuming they're still taking too long? You could type this in the chat if you want. Sign-offs from stakeholders. Not enough data. So you're just running the test and running the test and running the test. All right. No one's answering, so limited implementation resources. Yep. Great. Slow decision making, lots of opinions and debates. Too many things, not knowing where to start. Colleagues having random ideas. And we can even say it, founders having random ideas. No clear goals. All right. And we see also perfectionism. Constant debate, waiting for resources, all these things. So instead of doing the project, we're going to do something called a minimum viable test. So take your big idea, whatever it is, don't actually do the idea, but explain it to, in this case, I'd recommend also ChatGPT, although if you're doing any writing, I would recommend Claude plus your synthetic user document. Explain your idea to the AI, let it ask clarifying questions, and then just ask it, what do you think are the core risky assumptions? If we did this idea and it were going to fail, what are the most likely reasons it would fail? It's going to give you a list of possible points of failure, 3 to 5 probably. Look at that list. and choose the one that feels most realistic to you. Some of them are going to be silly. The AI doesn't know, but sometimes they're like, oh, you know what? That's true. Usually the risky assumption is somewhere around customer interest, market size, or execution feasibility. Once you've chosen that risky assumption, then you want to use these words. You want to ask the model to help you design a minimum viable test to isolate and test that assumption in 1 week without having to do the whole project. And then tell it about any constraints you have. We have very little traffic. We have no budget. We can't make changes to our website, whatever the constraints you're under. And it will give you experiment design ideas. And it knows all the false door tests, Wizard of Oz tests, Van Westendorf price sensitivity analysis, 5-second test. It has a gazillion great experimental methodologies. Once you've come up with your idea, ask it to help you turn that into a formal hypothesis. We believe X, and therefore we're going to do this, and we predict that this will happen, and this number will move in this direction by this amount. And then ask everyone in the company to make predictions. So test these things as experiments. And once the organization sees a couple of experiments, everyone's thinking starts to change, and everyone gets excited and wants to test things, which is cool. And this is the easy part. What's the hard part? So we know the hard parts because Nopadon and I do this with companies every day, every year. So there's 3 hard parts here. The first one is getting non-scientists to think like scientists and test and control and disentangle causation and correlation, confounding variables. Number 2, and this is bigger, is getting the person whose idea it was, who often is the founder, to say, I might be wrong. This is just a hypothesis. Why don't we test it before we start building? Because most ideas come with, I have this idea, go do it. Clear the decks, go do it. Number 3 is getting the people who have to execute the idea to be able to ship imperfect work fast. People are often reluctant to test because you can't test on the main domain, and we feel weird sending people to a subdomain, and we haven't set up GDPR compliance, or this is off brand. I'm not comfortable talking this way to my customers, or what if people click on this fake feature and then find out that the feature doesn't exist? Are they going to be angry and stop using our product and give us bad reviews? Or just people don't like to be wrong. And like in a good, aggressively testing company, 90% of your experiments will fail. And most people don't want to be wrong 90% of the time. But that's the wrong mindset because they're already wrong whether they run the test or not. Right? The point of the experiment is to discover where you're wrong so that you can fix them. But, and I like, sure, guru, that sounds clever, but it's actually hard for people. So those are the 3 things. Find the most impactful work, understand our customers, use that to make experiences work better, turn big ideas into quick experiments. Hopefully
Matt,
what I've shown. Yeah,
real quick, sorry to interrupt. We
yeah.
we did like a fairly straightforward, um, well, not straightforward, but we did a B2C example. We've got some questions upvoted around B2B or sort of niche sort of products where there isn't a whole great deal of publicly available information.
Absolutely. So we worked with a company last year who sold automated QA testing tools for companies in the medical device space who have to test software working with hardware in regulated industries in Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. Those customers are not hanging out on Reddit forums discussing their problems. So what we did first was we just used their customer interview or their sales call transcripts, and that got us a lot of the way there. And then the next thing we did was just booked customer interviews, and the co-founder got on calls, asked people to sort of walk through their purchase journey, and then use those transcripts. Another option is if there's a popular or famous alternative solution that might have reviews on G2 or Capterra, have really long detailed reviews. So often reviews of a competitive product can be a good quick starting place, or a well-known alternative solution, or even, honestly, a book about how to achieve the goal if there's no product yet. All good places to start. Other questions?
Good so far.
All right. It looks like we're ahead of schedule, so we'll have more time at the end if you have others. Um, so we'll send you, as we said, the slides, the prompt, the recording the video tomorrow. Just need a little time to edit it. But remember that AI is not a magic cure-all. It will indulge the worst parts of our nature if we let it. It will amplify us, but it cannot transcend us. It means we're no longer trapped by the limits of our tools, which is good, but we are now trapped by the limits of our own thinking. It doesn't make dysfunctional organizations functional. But we, Nopadon and I, as it happens, we do that. And it starts with this mindset shift. Going from we have to do all the things to we have to find and do the right work. Going from talking about our features to talking about our customers' hopes and dreams and worries. From having theories and debates to running experiments and validation. From trying to be perfect to getting things out the door so we can learn. And when we work with teams, we take them through this in 4 phases. And it helps for us to come in as sometimes as an outside expert, sort of like I tell my kids things and no, they won't listen to me, but if some YouTuber says it, then suddenly it's like the word of God. So sometimes it's good to have that outside expert. So the first thing we'll do is we'll sit down, map your growth model, help you find your rate limiting step where you'll have the greatest impact. Next thing we'll do is help you interview your customers, gather all these insights, create that synthetic user document. Then we help the team start to design and run experiments and gradually learn by doing. As we go through this, that mindset shift happens. And when this works, we get everyone pulling in the same direction, experimenting and learning quickly, doing work that produces results so that you can effectively delegate growth without nasty surprises. We do this through basically it's a 1-year program with it starts with a 10-week intensive sprint. Every Tuesday at 3 o'clock, we have a live workshop masterclass where we go through and do one of these things together. You take it as homework. You get paired with a coach. We have 17 coaches who are each experts, 10 years experience as a C-level or VP level marketer, or founder, or VP of growth in different domains. App store paywalls, mobile app marketing, B2B lead gen, product-led growth, consumer, direct-to-consumer, B2B SaaS. So you get paired with an expert. You'll have a private call with them every week where you apply these lessons to your business. Weekly Q&A calls with Nopadon and I. Recordings and tools for a year. You can send additional employees through cohort and a Slack community that gives you honest advice and some accountability. So that's our program. The cost is for early stage teams, £12,000 or about $16,000 euros, and then later stage 18,000, which if you consider the alternatives is astoundingly cheap because one of the alternatives is a full-time hire, which is $100,000 to $200,000 or euros or pounds and equity. And they're going to want a budget and they're going to want headcount. And it's going to take them 6 to 12 months before you find out if they're any good. And it's hard to hire someone for a critical role like this if you don't already know what good looks like. You could hire an agency. We know some excellent agencies we can recommend, but they're going to cost this much per month. And they make a percentage of your spend. So their financial incentive is to get you to spend more and focus on the top of the funnel. They're excellent consultants and advisors, 1,000 to 2,000 a day. I know some who cost 2,000 an hour. The best ones are worth it, but it's only advice. You still need to get to execution. Or you can do nothing and stay in your plateau and keep burning runway. And honestly, try these prompts. We're giving you all the resources. Work on this yourself. One other thing, none of those other options offer a full refund. Our next cohort is May 5th. The deadline to apply is April 22nd. The first step, if this sounds interesting, would be a fit call with Nopadon here. We talk to hundreds of teams, but we only work with about 50 or 60 a year. And so what Nopadon's looking to find out on this call is 1, do you have enough traction? We can actually be able to get a signal. Number 2, can you execute quickly? Because we have to cover a lot of ground in 10 weeks. 3, are you guys ready to focus on growth? And 4, is the mindset there? Are people in the team open to rethinking their assumptions? Anyways, it's the end of our little sales pitch. Thank you for indulging me. Whether you end up working with us or not, please do not miss the real opportunity of these AI tools, which is to make us smarter. Help us choose and focus on the most impactful work. use the voice of the customer to make all that work go better, and then move faster with a process of rapid experimentation and optimization. This all works if we are open to revisiting our assumptions. That is it. Thank you very much. Happy to stick around and take any other questions. What do we have here? Do the same thing with Claude, different projects for different sectors, sales transcripts. Excellent. Any feedback on the webinar? Anything we could have clarified or done better? Quite welcome. How far? Okay, here's some questions coming in. Let me try to. Product language fit. What's the best way to manage the process? Frank Sullivan. Hey, Frank, good to hear from you. What we normally do with language market fit is just 5-second test stuff. So I'll make like a PowerPoint slide of my homepage so I can change it quickly. And I'll go up and I'll just show it to someone for 5 seconds. And I'll say like, okay, what did that say? What do you think it means? And they'll say what parts were clear, what parts were confusing. And then after I do that 2 or 3 times, if I'm hearing the same problem, I'll rewrite the headline and then repeat the process. And I can iterate through 5 or 10 variants in a day in like a co-working space, or like I'll ask people to meet me on Zoom or whatever. Nick, how far have you gone with agent development to create end-to-end workflows with your clients? Honestly, not. We don't get too involved at that level because at that point, they're getting their playbook up and running, and each of our clients has a different playbook. So we kind of leave it, and each of our clients is using different tools. So we mostly try to help them embed the thinking and the process into those. But each of our coaches has their opinions and views on how to automate stuff, and so do we. When does it make sense for product and marketing to just build the thing versus experimentation? If the thing is, and these days with vibe coding it is, if it's quick and easy to build and you can just get it in front of customers and watch how they use it, that's wonderful. But there are some irreversible things, right? If it's expensive, if it's hard to build, you only get one chance to make a first impression with customers. So if there's some downside risk, I like to start with experimentation. Glenn, if you're the Glenn I think you are, you're definitely not going to buy a $400 hair dryer. Customer insight without sounding generic or emotionally manipulative. So Shweta, I don't think the language that I got back from Gemini sounded inauthentic or generic. Ultimately, you want to have things that sound and feel like things your customers would say. As far as manipulative, use your own taste and judgment. Ultimately, when you look at this stuff, how do you react to it? Does this feel like something we'd be comfortable saying or not? Pointing models at paid search accounts. I have not done this. Some of our coaches have. So I can't tell you. Why do we suggest ChatGPT one thing, Claude for another? So I'm sort of, polygamous between ChatGPT, Claude, and Gemini. Gemini is the best for current knowledge, benchmarks, search volume data, the broadest corpus of knowledge. So I tend to use it for anything research related. Claude is a far superior writer. So by proxy, then I think ChatGPT isn't as good at either of those things, but I find it's very good at formal reasoning. So like finding my rate limiting step or designing an experiment, it's really good for that. Okay, Josna, next time talk about how to initially set it all up. Okay, can do, thank you. Appreciate the feedback. Forgot to mention my newsletter. We're just going to move you all onto my newsletter, but we'll send you a welcome email with a big unsubscribe link. So if that feels like spam and you don't want it, you can just get out of there. But yeah, I have a weekly 2-minute newsletter. Joe Doyle, the customer interview process, we use jobs to be done methodology. I would just ask AI or Google, they can talk you through it, but there's a series of questions. It's a lot to cover in even a 1 hour webinar, but basically all you're doing is taking your customer back to the moment they first thought about buying your product and walking through the journey. Oh, I was at the gym, I was in a hurry, and I used their cheap hair dryer and my hair caught on fire. And, so then I went and I Googled this and I talked to this person. You just sort of like walk through that whole journey and record it. Cadence. Yes, for sure, Drummond. Focus on early signal, what feels like, looks like desperation. Even like if you just, like I was saying before to Frank, if you show a landing page to 10 people and 8 of them understand it, no, that would not pass a statistical significance calculator. Would I put that landing page up? Absolutely yes. Yes, Claude skills for sure. Once these things are perfected, we've got, you can create skills for whatever tasks you need to repeat. But again, just make sure that you embed in them the customer insights and the expertise in whatever it is you're doing. There's a right and a wrong way to make an influencer video. There's a right and a wrong way to warm up uh, a mailbox or an email address before you start sending cold emails. Just, garbage in, garbage out. AI tools for building accounts and contact lists and then enriching them. So if it's small numbers of accounts, yeah, easy enough. So a couple tools that our coaches use. One is I use a lot is Phantom Buster. Can crawl and pull out lists. For enrichment, Clay does an excellent job. Also, if you've got LinkedIn Pro, you can use a plugin to grab contact details out of LinkedIn Pro, export them into Clay. Another one for B2B is there's a product called Their Stack, which will crawl sites and just tell you, if you're trying to only target Shopify customers or only people who don't have GDPR compliance on there or whatever, or PayPal or whatever, it can crawl sites and give you lists of people and their contact information who are using or not using certain technology. That's called Their Stack. Don't get paid by any of these people, just telling you what tools we're using. Trustpilot reviews, a little bit. I find they tend to be less honest. I'd rather go with Amazon reviews, even Google reviews. And then for B2B, Capterra and G2 are good sources of reviews. Carpathy's auto research. I have not, but I will have a look. Herman. And need to input contextual information to improve responses outside the general prompts, or is a clean slate better? A bit of the right context can be helpful. The most important thing is your customers and their jobs to be done, and then a little bit about, what it is you sell, what markets you operate in, things like that. And then depending if you're starting to automate, obviously things around your tools, your technology stack, budgets, things like that. What do I not use AI to do in marketing? That's the great question. The other title I was thinking of was actually something suggested in one of the questions somebody submitted ahead of time, which is, what should the humans do? So there's a bunch of stages in here where you need to use judgment. AI is going to tell you your risky assumptions, but you've got to know in your gut which of these, be honest with yourself, feels like the deal breaker for a particular idea or an experiment. I'll stop sharing here. When
Would
you read all
definitely,
the, what's that?
I would definitely de-risk messages before going like putting lots of budget behind it.
Yeah. And how would you
Because
de-risk
once
them?
again, it's only gonna amplify like glaringly what you don't know about your customer if you put money behind it.
How would you de-risk them?
Paper tests,
Yeah.
comprehension tests, really quick.
Um, Deciding where to focus. A big one is when AI, this is I think the biggest single one, is when AI goes through a corpus of customer interviews or reviews and pulls out a bunch of outcomes and anxieties and pushes. It's comprehensive, but it's not deep. Read those and think about your actual conversations with customers. Think about the customers who are ready to bite your hand off. Which of those really feels right and feels spot on based on your own experience with customers? There, if you spend time with customers, your instincts are really powerful because AI will give you the full list. Example I mentioned at the beginning, where do the biggest unlocks come from? Sorry, Taha, which example was that? Will we launch agent skills at some point? um, yes, Frank, we haven't really talked about it, but we are working on a vibe coded app that can help with a lot of these and trying to figure out should it work as chat or MCPs or how we're going to do that. So, Mark, excellent. Thank you for sharing your playlist. Sorry, LinkedIn Pro is just a $300 a month version of LinkedIn. There's a few different plugins. I don't know, but we worked with the team who made one that works with Clay, right? So Phantom Buster probably will do it. But there are other tools. If you just Google like Chrome plugins to extract data from LinkedIn, Clay might be making their own at this point. Herman, cold emails, 100% agree. Yeah, AI is getting very good at detecting spam. Totally agree. My personal bias, don't do a ton of cold email. We far prefer inbound. If you're gonna do it, if you've got a good list, maybe pre-warm those people. So use custom audiences if this is legal in your region to target those people with ads for your product first, or at least get their brand name in their head, so that they're familiar with you when the email comes in, when the phone rings, they're more likely to take the call, and then just test lots of subject lines, go deep down the rabbit hole on email deliverability and spam filtering. App Store reviews versus Amazon or Google. Yeah, if it's an App Store reviews can be great. Reviews of your competitors can be great. Some companies game App Store reviews quite well, so maybe don't weight them all equally. Look for like the 4s out of 5s, like what's missing, or the 3s out of 5s. Often those have a lot of value. And also the 5 out of 5, what is that customer use case? And how's that use case different from the people who gave it a lower review? You may be selling to the wrong customer. Okay, Taha, the companies up front who were getting like massive uplifts. Let's just go through a few of them. I guarantee it's exactly the stuff we're talking about. So Popsa has been, like the short answer is Popsa spent the last 5 years running 20 to 200 experiments a week. The initial uplift, so it's a photo book making app, and their app store listing said fast, easy photo books. And they did user testing, and people were so burned by the category of photo books that they thought fast, easy meant it takes 3 hours. So they changed their app store listing because you only get like 28 or 32 characters in there. They changed it to photo books in 5 minutes. And that quadrupled their visit to install rate, suddenly made their ads, like ROI positive. So for Popsa, just finding language market fit and running lots of experiments. Second Nature, it's a weight loss app. And they built an onboarding flow that sort of, actually, it was before Calm, but same kind of thing. There's lots of reasons you might want to lose weight, and there's a lot of cynicism around the category. So they built a boarding flow that asks you questions. What have you struggled with in the past? You know, impulse eating, don't fit into my clothes the way I used to, trying to get pregnant, dealing with all the different conflicting information. What are your main goals? To have more energy, to look better, to get pregnant. And so by taking people through and talking about struggles and outcomes, they built trust with the users that this wasn't some like generic fly by night weight loss app. Collectives on the call. I don't know, Amy, how much you want to spill the beans, but basically experimenting a lot and getting some viral referral loops going. Yeah, I'm trying to think of other examples here, the specific stories I could call out. Simply Cook was an interesting one. So they have
Amy's got her hand up. She
oh
can
yeah,
mention something.
can we
I've
take her
I've
off
I've
mute?
I've,
And
I've done that.
oh, okay.
Hi guys.
Hey,
Yeah, so for us it was largely about where to focus our time, so that what wasn't going to work for us. So our product is very product-led growth. and it's very tempting to do with a consumer app to do paid ads, and a lot of that does work for a lot of app companies. One of the early experiments we did was similar to the Second Nature thing, where we added screens into our sign up flow, and that increased sign up by 15%. And that was like against the kind of common wisdom of trying to make things simple. So our main thing has been about making our product so easy to use and so helpful for the person that uses it, that they use it repeatedly, because every use brings us new users. So it's been a lot of product-led growth and where to not spend our time.
You,
Awesome.
Amy.
Thank you for sharing. Is 75x still the right number? Should I update this
As
slide?
Yeah, definitely update the slide, Matt.
Okay. Awesome. Great questions. Have I answered them all? Are there any other? Okay. Good stories. There's a couple other hands raised. Frank, should we, you're allowed to unmute, Frank. Meanwhile, Shweta, given your framework of choosing the right work, how can early stage founders validate they're working on the right growth lever before going too deep? Absolutely experimentation. So first thing is, if this works, how big can it be? Like literally, how big is the reach? How big is the audience? Does this work for other people? And then, yeah, just start experimenting with it. Often, I mean, like you can test a product before you build it. You can advertise a product that doesn't yet exist, send people to a landing page, and put them on a waiting list. If you're trying to, maybe let's pick something less obvious in advertising. B2B, you're thinking about partnerships. How do you test that? Well, maybe you decide you want to partner with a giant payroll software company. It's going to take 2 years to get in there. So find a tiny little payroll software startup, agree to buy the founder coffee, and just talk through if a partnership could work, if they think their customers would want it, why they'd be willing to promote it. And then if they're up for it, just do a lightweight cross promotion test where you help market their products and they help market yours or something like that. So just find quick, easy ways to validate any of these. Yeah, we can allow, it looks like Frank, Jordan, or Henry wants to ask a question.
I'm gonna allow Jordan in a second. Here we go.
Jordan, you are allowed to unmute. He's not talking. Oh, accident. Okay. In that case, let's give it to Frank. Oh, he took his
Yeah, I
hand
think
down.
Frank also said can't find it, so I'm not sure he might. Yeah.
Okay. No worries. All right. Well, anyways, it's been 59 minutes. So I sincerely hope this was helpful. Look for an email from.
Are you gonna give the answer?
Oh, so it was an internship when I was in graduate school, and it was George Bush Sr. He was a former president in Houston. And I didn't actually write speeches for him, but I wrote remarks to be read on his behalf when there were events he was invited to and could not attend, but felt they were worthwhile causes. As it happens, I didn't really agree with his politics, but I got to know him as a human being, and I was thoroughly impressed with the guy.
Nice cliffhanger.
And it felt cool to be able to write messages like thanking veterans for their service or humanitarian causes and speak with the voice of a former president. That was incredibly rewarding work. Inside the company, in established companies, and now in a 4-person startup. Yeah, that's why we don't tend to work with big companies. It is much easier in a startup. Absolutely.
So you do workshops for larger setups,
That's
like
true.
MNCs.
We will do private workshops with large companies. We'll talk to you first and make sure that we're not going to be wasting anyone's time or money. But awesome. Thank you, guys.